We're back. Time for another edition of the Carolina Insider. Jones and Adam here with you. It's early in the week, holiday weekend. A lot of stuff happened. Let's take a look back. Adam, we start with football. Not much happened there. No, what a game. 63-61. Crazy ball game in Boone. Tar Heels outlast Appalachian. And it was almost like it was 3 games within a game. App started really strong, led 21-7. Then through the second and third quarter, after App scored early in the second quarter, from that point through the third quarter, Tar Heels outscored the Mountaineers 34-0. And then there were more than 60 points and nearly 500 yards gained between the two teams in the fourth quarter. Just an insane ball game.
The fourth quarter took an hour and a half.
Hour and a half, real time.
Of clock time just to play the fourth quarter. Just a game the likes of which I don't think, and probably Mac Brown hopes, we don't ever see again. Of course, there were some real positives on the Carolina side. Drake May has started off this season fantastically, threw for 352 yards, 4 touchdowns, ran for another. And as you would expect, Drake May getting some national attention for his performance through these first couple of games.
Yeah, named the Maxwell Award Player of the Week thanks to those big numbers. And what a start for Drake May. 9 touchdowns, no interceptions through the first 2 games of the season. Impressive start to the year, certainly for the young Tar Heel quarterback. And not only is he putting up impressive stats, but he is just doing a lot of the other stuff well. He's staying calm in the pocket. He's managing things, managing the clock well. And as you'll hear Phil Longo, Carolina's offensive coordinator, say here, just doing a great job distributing the ball to multiple players.
We had seven different players, I think, score touchdowns in the game. I think we had 7 or 8 different people catch the football. I think we ran 4 running backs, if I remember correctly. We used all 3 of our tight ends. You know, Drake sprayed the ball around, and it just forces you, from a personnel standpoint, to have to defend everybody.
Small sample size, Tar Heels have only played twice, but they are averaging better than 59 points per game so far through 2 games. Adam, if the offense has been pretty consistent, the defense has been the opposite of that. There have been some good moments and some not as good moments for the Tar Heel defense thus far, including all within this game. And started slowly, had a great middle portion of the game, and then had trouble stopping anything in the fourth quarter. And veteran Tar Heel defensive coordinator Gene Chizik certainly aware that Carolina needs to find some consistency.
Amongst all of the negatives that were out there, which there were plenty, we also have to pull the positives from several different parts of the game where they played well. And I think the message is inconsistency. Like, do you want to be the defense that played midway through the second quarter and all of the third, or do we want to be the other? And if we don't want to be the other, why were we the other? And that was the message yesterday, but it was well received. And again, I expect us to be better this week.
So plenty to work on, Adam, but in the end, 2-0 through 2 games, which is goal number 1.
And the Tar Heels have given themselves what they wanted to be going into the next road game, which is another road trip to another Sun Belt opponent as they travel down to Georgia State this weekend. Got a chance to be 3-0 after this stretch, but as Mac Brown said this week, this is going to be another situation where Carolina goes into a place where they're going to be very excited to have the Tar Heels there, and Coach Brown knows he's got to get his team ready for that environment.
I've never seen a game with as many teachable moments, so we will be better in a lot of areas next week and still 2-0. Georgia State, they beat Tennessee in 2019, 38-30. Auburn, they had on the ropes till the last drive of the game last year. And then South Carolina, they have a 14-12 lead in the third quarter the other night. So we are the only Power 5 team to ever play at Georgia State. So we're the biggest game in the history of Appalachian State last week, and we're the biggest game in the history of Georgia State this week.
So noon in Atlanta, Carolina and Georgia State coming up on Saturday afternoon. We'll be on the air at 11 a.m. on the radio as Carolina tries to get to 3-0 with a bye week coming next, and then a home matchup with Notre Dame following that. Adam, let's change gears. Some basketball announcements this week. It feels like earlier than ever that Carolina is having its late night event, but Adam, no longer late night. We've had a rebrand.
It's live action out there, Jones. And it's going to be live action on September the 30th. That is when the rebranded, you knew it as late night, but now you're going to have to learn to love it as live action with Carolina basketball. Doors are going to open on September the 30th at 6 o'clock. Of course, Jones will be out there lined up far before that.
Oh, yeah.
And the actual event begins at 7:30. A lot of the things you love that make you want to come to this event every single year. You'll have the fancy intros. Jones will come out in the spotlight and who knows, he'll probably ride in on Chariot. And then there'll be a scrimmage with both the men's team and the women's team is going to scrimmage. So just a great way to kick off the Carolina basketball season. And as Jones said, why wouldn't you want it to start earlier than ever before? Because that's what it'll do this year.
The men's and women's team both there. There'll be a three-point shootout as well. And Adam, even though that'll be the first time that most people will have publicly seen the Tar Heels, already a bunch of work occurring.
The NCAA allows you a few practices before the official start of practice. Practice actually starts on September 26th, which is a Monday. But Carolina's been working out about twice a week. And the main theme that has come through from Hubert Davis is two things. One, he very much remembers how last season ended. I think we all have sort of warm, positive memories of New Orleans. Hubert Davis just remembers that Carolina was one missed rebound away from winning a national title. He's emphasized that a lot. And number two, he really wants this team to get into shape. He wants to make sure they're not just feeling nice and comfortable with a lot of returning players feeling like they already know what to do. He has really emphasized conditioning, and that's something that the Tar Heels will get more into next week, which I'm sure they're looking forward to spending that quality time with Jonas Saration.
Again, September 30th, live action with Carolina basketball. Smith Center doors open at 6. That event slated to start at 7:30. You'll hear more about that as we move through the month and get a little closer. Let's take a look at some other sports. Let's start with men's golf. Number 1 in the nation by Golf Digest. Just competed for the first time this season at the Fighting Irish Invitational in South Bend. Tar Heels finished third, just 2 strokes out of first place in that event. Florida ended up taking home the team title in that one. Carolina did have its second best round in program history in the second round of this event, where as a team, the Heels shot 266. That was just 1 shot off the best round ever for Carolina. And sophomore David Ford was tied for the individual lead through the regulation of the competition, ended up falling on the 4th playoff hole to finish second. But that is a very talented Tar Heel team that is expected to compete for tournaments and the national championship as this season moves along. Adam, bunch of action here in Chapel Hill this past weekend, including volleyball, which had an uneven start to the year on a road trip to Colorado, came back here to Chapel Hill and found a lot of success.
Tar Heels just needed to come back to Carmichael and everything would be fine. Joe Segula's club comes home. They beat South Carolina. They beat Arizona. That's Arizona's first loss of the season. And the Carolina volleyball program's first win over a Pac-12 opponent since 2015. So a really good win there. Carolina had 14 aces against the Wildcats. That's the most Carolina's had since 2014. Volleyball going to have to leave Carmichael this evening. They're headed down to Charlotte, but they'll be back this weekend if you happen to be around Chapel Hill. They're going to host Michigan State on Friday, host Michigan on Saturday. That's part of the ACC Big Ten Volleyball Challenge.
All right, let's burn through the end here. Field hockey, no surprise there, stays undefeated, wins over Princeton and Penn. The Penn win was 4-0 with 4 different Tar Heels scoring goals. Bunch of different Carolina players, I believe it was more than 20, were able to get into the ball game on Sunday afternoon. Aaron Matson leading the scoring. Again, no surprise for the Tar Heels, but 3 of the next 4 in that scoring category are freshmen. So the future bright for a team that has been very good here over the last several years. 6 of the next 7 on the road for the Tar Heels. Long trip. To start that long road trip, they're going to Cal and then Stanford. We'll finish up with women's soccer. They were ranked number 1, but suffered their first loss of the year to UCLA. 2-1 the final score. A couple controversial moments in this game, though. Despite the Tar Heels out-shooting UCLA 16-7, had 10 corners to just 1. There was a questionable non-call on a foul. There was a goal that Carolina thought maybe had crossed the line, but was not reviewed. And so, unfortunately, here's a good look at this foul. I'll let you be the person who decides whether or not that's legal on the pitch. I think we know the answer to that. But anyway, the Tar Heels do fall, but they're playing a tough schedule. We all know that Carolina is going to be right there at the end. For now, this is the end of our show. For Adam, I'm Jones. Thanks for being with us here on the Carolina Insider.